happy to be here today to have this conversation because realizing that one of the biggest gaps that exists between the existence of LGBTQ plus persons and the larger community is how our issues are communicated. And so media people play a huge role in how those issues are communicated. And language has always been a barrier, essentially, in reporting our issues because people curate language for us that doesn't work for us, that affects us. So it's important for us to be in a space like this where we can be able to speak power to what language works for LGBTQ people and how that would affect reporting, and then what ethical reporting would look like for LGBTQ plus persons. We are more than who we have sex with. We are more than who the society perceives us to be. We are human beings, most importantly, but even most importantly, if you really want to know me, dare to ask me who I am. Yeah, because you will learn I'm such an awesome person, and you don't have to discriminate me just because of a part of myself that I must exist as, because you also exist as yourself in the way that you must exist as yourself. So I also have that right. But outside of that, I'm a human being.
Media is part of society. So media will always cover issues based on a societal lens. So, for example, the very fact that from my introduction, I introduced myself as a human being, but when media houses, both in Kenya and internationally, will have a discussion with me, they will discuss it as an issue, as a surgery, that is sexual orientation, gender identity issue. Don't discuss it as a human story about I. Don't discuss it as a human story about this particular person who lives in Kenya, who is a mother of two non-binary children, who's trying to put our children through school. They'll only see me through what has been framed as a SOGI issue or a human rights issue. Or if you go to the States, they'll talk about, it's transgenderism. You're like, what is that? And that's the challenge we have. The minute we dehumanize the subjects of our story, then the story is told wrongly. People focus on the sensation and they start asking, when did you change from being this to this, instead of asking me, who are you as a person? And that is always the challenge with media houses and with journalism.
At least journalists are shaping the conversation for intersex persons, because I want to be specific for intersex persons. But what I want them to know is that let them come, we sit down as individuals of the Sogi community, and then we discuss issues, then agree the way, and also, the most importantly, the language they use during giving out this information, because our communities, they rely a lot in the media, and whenever these statements comes from media, they agree with it at a certain percentage, which is very high. So we want to ensure that media, they are informed, they give the correct information about intersex persons, the culture, the religion, and the misconception in our communities, and that will be okay. When a media person calls you for an interview, already they have set questions. But for me, as an intersex person, which is a new community in the country, I want them to understand what it means. Now that means that we sit as a team and agree what we want to be heard out, what we want our communities, our parents, our guardians to get, what we want our nurses, our midwives to get from us as intersex persons, so that we can help intersex people to live, because that is a very major issue in our country.
I like the fact that we have focused on language that is Afrocentric, because now, even with the LGBTQ community, most of it, the terms come from the English language. There are terms that you find them in African languages, but we are still tweaking them, and also we're finding new terms that can describe us and be affirmative to us, in our own language, because we have existed, and it's just the fact that it hasn't been as focused or as driven, and now we have defined ourselves in a European wide language sense instead of our own languages, and seeing that there are people that are willing to say, let's actually call ourselves from our own languages. Now that is where the change is, and I'm happy to be here to experience that. people need to educate themselves more, and also just have respect. We are humans. We live. We don't need to beg for permission to live. We live already. So respect us. We deserve that. That's it.
I mean, I appreciate the fact that you're having a conversation, because conversations are the way to move things forward. So when you have a conversation and I'm like, oh, I don't want to be referred to as an issue, I don't want to be referred to as an agenda, the only place this will take part is in conversation. So I appreciate journalists for human rights for creating a forum to discuss how we interact with journalism and with media, but also to grow the language, because language is a living thing, and language is what drives stories. So only in forums like this can we get the language that can be used by media houses. So I appreciate the forum for creating a platform where we exchange, we have an honest interaction, but from that honest interaction we grow something. We grow our media and ourselves as human beings, how we interact. Let us humanize journalism, and for me, humanizing for me means also queering the journalism, giving it a queer lens. Yes.
One of the key things and one of the key pointers that I can really bring out from today's meeting is the fact that we have agreed that we have to work together. Yes, we have to agree that there is still that fear that this community has as far as working with the media is concerned, for their own safety, for the safety of their own families, and generally the fact that the community at large does not understand them, does not understand their issues. And at the end of the day, we have to look at every individual from their human perspective. They are human beings, despite their sexual orientation or choice of how they choose to see themselves. And at the end of the day, we have to care for everyone's human rights. That's what we do, and that is what we are supposed to do. And that is the journey that we have just started.
I'm happy about journalists for human rights, because they're then looking at developing, for example, a manual where they're able to say, if you're going to report about LGBTQ people, here's a guideline for you. The rest of the things you can ask these people, but most importantly, even if you have no one to ask, use words that are written here, because these words are more representative of these populations as opposed to any other word you'd ever think of.